gender things are talked about so much. I'll still try to bring about that when we talk about diversity and wellness, it doesn't need to be just that percentage of women or percentage of the other gender that you hire, but how can you sustain them? How can you give them the opportunities at work? How can you make sure that your environment is there to support them as well?
Just listen, trust, and be an enabler. That how can I enable you to be successful? I have always followed myself that, okay, how can I help you to do this? And how can I do your job? And that's where the people start believing in you. They start believing more than you in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast. I'm Anurag Verma, and I am a people and a business oriented HR professional. Have been fortunate to work in high paced, high growth business environments, mostly in startups in last 30 years of my professional career. What I bring in a founder's mindset, wherein I leverage the full spectrum of HR disciplines to build and scale high performing organizations with people centric cultures. Over the years, I have seen a whole spectrum of the journeys of growth of organizations and kept on learning in this vast domain of how people make an impact into the organizations and how we can build high performance cultures through the people. So here we have Devangi as well, and together we look forward to have an encouraging conversation. Over to you, Devangi.
Thank you so much, Anurag, and lovely to hear about you. I'm absolutely honored to be sharing this space with you today. A little bit about myself. As you know, my name is Devangi. I'm Devangi Kamra, and I have about 25 years of experience now working in the people space. Quite a few common things with Anurag, actually, where I have focused my career and my journey in HR, working with people centric organizations. What this means is that I thrive towards building organizations or building functions which will not just focus on business or not just focus on people, but how can we really amalgamate the two main causes or the main reasons why businesses exist? It has been great. I've learned from some of the best people as to how can you, if you can just remember that we work with humans, how can it really change the way you look at business? And then how can high performance teams, high performance businesses can come into place as well? It's not all been easy, of course not. Like everything else, it's an up and down journey, and which is what makes it interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation because this is something which is really, really close to my heart. And who better to do it with than Anurag, you to share this with?
That was awesome, right? It's so much common synergies and also a lot of opportunities to learn through your experience. So yeah, getting into the theme of transforming people-centric cultures and wellness into high-performance workplaces. So how has been your experience in this space? How have you been driving the agenda of wellness into the organizations?
Let me start right at the beginning. I was just sharing it with my colleague today that when I was kind of preparing for this podcast today, I was wondering that if I had to look back and ask myself, where did this journey start from me? And where did this realization come? Because colleges don't teach you when you're doing your MBA that wellness is at the center of things. Probably when you and I started working, Anurag, it wasn't such a thing as well that wellness was at the center of things as well. So I was trying to figure out where did it start, and I remembered that I read a book called Maverick, and it's about this small organization manufacturing unit actually, which is another surprising thing because we connect wellness to the modern new age kind of industry, but this was a book which actually talked about a generational manufacturing unit which was there in Brazil and how when the sun took over, the person who was in the book took over and actually started paying attention to what the workers wanted, started listening to them. And then how the turnaround of the workers, the turnaround of the business started taking a change. And I remember now when I think about it, I remember getting really impacted by it, saying that if only this could be translated in wherever you work. And I think my journey started from there of understanding that can I listen to the people more? Can we pay attention to what the people want at the workplace more? Can we just, like I said in my introduction, can we just remember that we are working with human beings? And with human beings, there's also an aspect of not just them bringing their competencies or their skills, but also their emotions, their life into it as well. And if we can just start focusing on that, can we make a difference? That is where the journey started. Was it easy? Of course not, as you would probably agree, Anurag. Yeah, that is how the journey started. And I would say I'm still a learner over there. I don't think we perfected anything, made enough mistakes to learn from as well. But Anurag, I'd like to learn from you because I know that your career has taken you to many, many, not just industries, but also countries and continents. Is it any different of how you would look at wellness after having worked at all these places?
Well, I can relate to what you were saying that it never is easy, right? We all have made mistakes and we all are learning. I'm still learning. This is something which, with my experience, what I've found is that everybody at the start wants to sound good, right? That we want to care for our people and wellness, but seldom, they want to take any initiatives. Uh, which are sustainable, which are more focused. It usually in organizations becomes a spike that you have a wellness week or a one wellness initiative a month, and that always bothered me that why are we doing this, right? It's not 1 day, 2 day or 3 day, but it's something which is ingrained right in your daily approach and how you sort of work at a workplace. And honestly, in high growth startups, and particularly in sectors which are more hyper like telecom, right, and e-commerce, wherein speed is a default setting, not only from the organization perspective but the consumers, right?
Wow.
um, Today e-commerce have gone into quick commerce, right? And everybody wants it fast. What happens in background, if you see the impact that it has on the employees, is very intense because everything you have to do so fast, so quick. And I realized saying that within organizations that it's dog's years in startups. 1 year is equal to 4 years of a corporate work. And what that gets translated is in burnouts, right? When everything is urgent, nothing seems to be, working out. And then somewhere the productivity starts dipping. And what I realized later on in working with different countries and continents as well is that some have evolved, they've learned from the mistakes, right? And where they've put in a lot of focus on wellness. For that matter, Europe, right? And if you go to countries like Spain, like Belgium, Sweden, they have a very strong focus of keeping employees first. And employees also work for their earning, but not for their living. And then that's a different, right? They need money for their living, but it's not for living. And unlike a nation, and for that matter, the startups in America. So America is diverse, right? There are established organizations, but the startups have the same culture. We have
Yeah.
just taped it from there. So there they do it for the living. That I'm working 18 hours a day, right?
Mm.
That becomes the pride in most of the organizations there. But like in Spain, nobody would respond to your mail, and I'm talking when it was not mandated, right? After 5 p.m. Unless it's very very critical. Nothing happens on Friday after 3 p.m., right? Afternoons are siesta times, which are by design culturally ingrained into it. But that's uncommon here. Right. And some of the things which I recall made some again, we will talk more. But, since we are on the topic, may highlight that in telecom early days, we just said 2 days on a week. We want offices at 7 p.m. power shutdown. And a literal says power shutdown. That your laptop will not boot in, right? IT will switch off the Wi-Fi, etc. Now, these were not symbolic gestures. These were sustainable. Why? Because, and I will come later when we talk about what led to drive such behaviors, but this was forcing people to go home, right? So that they can recharge themselves in those days wherein wellness was not the common buzzword. And in telecom, we had people hustling, sitting in offices for long, and this helped a lot. In e-commerce, we followed a culture of no meeting days, right? And mandated it very early when this was before COVID, etc. When these initiatives got more of attention. And also DND zones wherein you can put you on phones and just focus on core work. But yeah, it never is easy.
It's never easy. Oh,
But
sure.
taking a segue from there, Devangi, how do you make or how do you have brought about wellness ingrained into the workplaces, right? It's not easy. We all know that, but what sort of approach you followed to sort of get it into the agenda of the organization, if I have to put?
Yeah, totally. So businesses listen to, at the end of the day, they want to see balance sheets. They want to see the numbers. They want to see how it's impacting the business. And I think if we actually go by research, we'll see that probably the best teams or the best projects which have been released all are from people or teams which are well rested, well looked after, as compared to people who work many hours a day or have to stretch themselves or are getting burnt out. Because obviously the efficiency comes down. If we can have these, what I have realized is that having these dialogues with the business people, with the management, so to speak, about how we can really bring about the change in your efficiency is what has helped in actually starting these initiatives at the workplace. Just like you said, wellness can't be a buzzword. You mentioned it some time ago. It needs to be something that you really believe in, and it needs to be something which has an objective, which has an outcome as well. It's not just something that you do because you feel good about it or you feel it feels nice to hear about it. It does need to have an outcome. And if you are able to bring that in the business forefront, it becomes that much easier to at least get it into the business system or get it into a life at workplace as well. Is what I have realized. We've done enough now over the last few years. We have, my team and I, we've ourselves done this, that we've actually paid attention to teams. I have actually given a thought and looked around at places that I have worked, where I worked in a couple of product companies where the pace was really high, and hence the burnout, and hence the turnaround was pretty high as well. And that's when probably you realize that if you just take a step back and understand how can we really organize this better, or how can we really bring some bit of wellness into work, and then can it change? I didn't stick around to see the changes, but I do know that it would have made a difference as well. Anurag, if you don't mind, related to burnout, I had a question. You also said that, we are in this world where e-commerce has become quick commerce now. And then over there, taking a step back, uh, and not getting to a burnout sometimes might be difficult because you're just in that pace where you're running. And sometimes wellness after burnout becomes a little obvious, that you know that, okay, now you reach the peak, now you need to take these steps or help the person out or however it is. But in these quick moving organizations or economies, how do you proactively start looking at these things? Because pace matters and wellness does need its own space as well. So how do you bring that balance in?
Well, yes, that's the most tough part, right? Because both employee and the organization is sort of running on a treadmill, which is only increasing its speed, right? And by design, you can't lower the speed, forget switching it off. Like no one wants to does. Even the employee doesn't want to does. They just want to outbeat their performance. Like how company is growing, they also want to grow. Now, what they realize somewhere, and if you talk just wellness initiative at that moment, no one is listening. Neither the employee is listening. They say, yeah, it's just like the same example I gave, that I need to go to a fitness regime for myself. And that's the most crucial time wherein I have all the work in my life. And I will say, I'll do it tomorrow. Everybody says, yeah, it's important, but let's do it next, not even a month. Let's do it next quarter. This quarter, there's a lot of releases. So what helped? And then, to be honest, we failed. How do you bring this as an initiative which is sustainable and most importantly was recognized? So what helped me particularly alongside the team, you can't do things alone, was to I always focused on bringing in people agenda from a business lens, right? That how this can be also measured as a business performance in a metric or an indices, and it doesn't lie on the sidelines. So what we did is we started early on the deeper engagement service, all right? And wherein by design we had questions which will give you answers on how people are feeling burned out, right? And where people are not feeling burned out in teams across. And then also linking it with the managers ENPS, as we call it, employee net promoter scores, etc. And first just started publishing them to the business. And then some early leaders or teams which were adopting, to do some wellness initiatives, got the metrics of those. So it took some quarters. And then we say that, look, this is the team which has consistently not taken any wellness initiatives or time offs, and then just keep on performing breakneck. This is their business productivity, this is their individual productivity, etc. And this is what they feel. But this is the team which has done some things, and you see the difference there, right? The engagement scores are better, but productivity is also same, like comparisons. And that's where it started getting some early buy-ins, right? And then the lot of time and energy I focused was on either the co-founders or the CXOs and business leaders, so that they first, understand, adopt it, and most importantly, shift it from an HR initiative to a business initiative, making it an OKR, right, of the CXO. And they're driving it that, guys, this is important. I don't want people to only work, but it's a marathon. So it's okay. It's not a sprint. We are not here for a sprint. Take time off, recharge yourself, rework, and then also looking at the leave patterns. How many leaves are people taking and why they're not taking leaves, and manager efficiencies across. And once leaders saw that connection, it stopped as being an HR initiative and became a performance metric, an important and critical one, right? But what happens is when you're doing this, your team gets very creative. The
Yeah.
HR team I'm talking about, they want to do a lot of initiatives. And that's where I, used to control them and say that, look, it's not about creativity. It's not about, again, it's not a sprint that you're doing. It's about consistency and how you can ensure that you're doing it, day in, day out, and making it as an habit of an organization. Because if you do so many things, you can't repeat everything, right? You have to make it sustainable. Like, the D&D zones or no meetings, right? Those power shut-offs, those are certain things which drive a behavior. And yes, have some spikes like the contest, of which team walks more, they get more credits, etc. And then we have seen the walkathon, or the other wellness initiatives that are important in between. But most importantly is pick up what works well for your organization, and which will show again the measurable difference. Because if it doesn't change a business outcome, it becomes like a fad, and they will go back to the reason. And still, it's a learning phase. Each organization is different. Each people are different. No one size fits you all. Your playbooks may not work in the next organization. So it goes to the same unlearning process, relearning it, and again solving the problems bottoms up.
Yeah, and I think that's what keeps our jobs interesting, that we are constantly learning new things. Amazing. That's been great to know. Quite a few common things actually, but yeah.
So we touched upon the challenges, right? So again, how has been your journey in facing these challenges of scaling the wellness initiatives across the teams, and some of the good practices that you would have brought to overcome them?
Great. So the challenges have been pretty similar to what you talked about. That how do we really show the outcome and the impact on the business, getting the CXOs to see the value in that. The other challenge has been people also being more open to this because, if you ask me, mental well-being especially has taken a forefront only in the last, let's say, about 10 years. Before that, people would not even pay attention if you told them that, you're getting burnt out. Why don't you take time off? Why don't you go and talk to somebody? That change itself has been a challenge as well. But like you said, I have a similar thing that I believe in, that can't be a destination. It needs to be a journey. So you keep moving one step at a time towards it. And I think that's how I have looked at challenges as well. The biggest challenge, like I said, has been for the CXOs to see the value in having it, even if it is not at the business front. Just saying that, my team will be dedicating this time towards wellness or will be introducing this initiatives as compared to something else, which may be BAU, or it may be something which is a little bit more strategic than wellness. So those are the challenges that came across. But I've used similar tools like you did. How do we really probably look at engagement of the people? How do we look at the kind of survey results that come across? And then try to match them to the productivity as well. But some of the best practices, as you say, I don't know if they're the best practices, some of the well-meaning thoughts or the well-meaning initiatives that we have paid attention to are, or that I have followed. One is that give your team the space to think. I think if they understand and if they connect with what you believe in, you can reach really great heights. That's one thing I believed in. Give them the free space to try, fail, pick up themselves, and start moving. One size does not fit all. So that means that we need all the kind of creativity that can come in as well. Along with that, the thought that don't pick up too many things at one time.
Right.
If you can just focus on, even if it is a couple of things, but make sure that they are doing well, they're sustainable, they're running constantly, and they are seeing success, that is more important. So just because it sounds great, don't pick up too many things. And what we have tried to do is that we have tried to break down wellness into different pillars. and then pick up a pillar at a time so that we can start supporting people. The pillars that I truly believe in are, one is, of course, health, mental well being, there is wealth, there is spirituality, there is mastery. And the last one is probably around the belongingness. So, few of them are self explanatory. How can we, from a health perspective, how can we provide them all the support that they're going to need? Of course, the traditional ones, the insurance, the tie ups, and all those things are there. But beyond that, can we make sure that our pantry is giving healthy food? Can we make sure that we are avoiding processed food as much as possible? Can we not have cold drinks around in our pantry? These are some of the things that we've tried to inculcate. Of course, it's difficult. We've got people who look forward to these things when they come to the office, etc. But even something as small as that, that can we bring a little bit of a lifestyle change when health is concerned? From the mental well-being perspective, not going traditional with an EAP or anything like that, but tying up with mental well-being partners, which means they understand what you're trying to achieve. It's not just having psychologists on board that people can talk to, but how can they ingrain themselves into the culture of the organization as well, and then pick up initiatives or workshops or whatever that they are doing along with the organization. Well, essentially, everybody should understand how much they earn and how much is the potential of what they can save and what they can put into. If we can provide just this knowledge, I think we'll empower not just our employees, but the next generation of our country. Because I think that's one place where we don't spend enough time, where people need to know what is the potential of what they can do of what they are earning today. From a spirituality perspective, it's about, can I help people bring a little bit of themselves into the workplace? Can be a little bit beyond just the work that they do? Can they have a space where they can talk about their hobbies, their likes, their interests? Can they have their own groups which where they can actually keep on motivating themselves by talking about all these things? Because like we established long ago, we bring a whole human to work. We don't just bring an employee or a worker of the workplace. Our masteries, of course, we all are here because we want to really skill and become better at what we do. Can we have a chance to bring in everything that I can where my competencies are concerned? So having proper growth paths, ensuring that they get the support towards the growth path. Can the organization really work on this? Because even the organization benefits, right? If people are growing, which means you're giving space to succession planning, you're giving space to the growth of the organization as well. And the last one is the closest to my heart, is that if we can only make people belong, I think half the things will be solved. If I can be myself, if I know that I'll be accepted the way I am and that I matter to the workplace. At the end of the day, I think that's what human beings want. And if you feel that you belong, you will bring in your 100%, and which means your business will also start seeing that much more, reap that much more benefits from this as well. So yeah, these are some of the things that we've tried to bring in. One of the simplest thing I've learned is that if you can't do any of these, if you don't have an environment to do any of this, can we just listen to the people?
Yes.
So, because I think somewhere people just want to be heard. So we have something with that we call listening tours that we've got. We have it twice a year. And in that, instead of just collecting results via survey, we actually set up a one-on-one time where we just sit and listen to what people have to say. And that has been empowering as well, not just for me, but for the people too.
Very inspiring, right? I can relate to all dimensions that you were speaking about, how you have been driving it, not only as an initiative, but a way, right, of a change, a habit that brings in, and most importantly, how people feel belonged. And that's where, um, you know, it's not the years these days as they call it, but how those years have been, how those months have been. And then if those were, where you felt you belong, where you felt that you're part of the journey, like, then the outcomes were totally different in those organizations.
I mean, very true. I mean, I can tell, relate to it, and which is what I feel that if I can, the others would.
No, absolutely. And to me as well, the common thing, while it's different for all organizations, is that how, we can, as HR professionals, design wellness and on top of the pyramid, the belongingness to the organization into the rhythm of the business.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem as one feel good factor that we are doing, but this becomes the core of how important it is, right? Like how a healthy mind and a healthy body is important for an individual as a is also important for organization, because most of the organizations, let's face it, and I've taken it multiple times, that in tech oriented organizations and startups, what is your proprietary, right? You're not manufacturing where you say, okay, it's the automation or the speed and precision or quality of the product. Everything that is coming out is from the human capital, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
human brain,
So
right?
true.
70% of your in-house cost is about people, right? That make a difference. And if they are not well, both physically and mentally, how do you affect the organizational productivity to be very high, right? And that's where, integrating wellness into work design, not linking it with as a perk, or a yoga at an office, is where, it starts showing the differences. And that's where the shift would happen, wherein managers would own their, team's wellness, and most importantly, the leaders, right? Where they walk the talk, right? Now, the good thing is that many of the young leaders, if you see, they are very concerned about it. They
Yeah.
themselves do it. They post it on their LinkedIn profiles as well, what measures they take it, the times off that they take across. And these are new age leaders, not the conventional ones. And the good part with them is that if you tell them that this impacts your business performance, they're listening, because at any cost they want to grow that business performance. And when they are have sort of got bought into it, they ensure that it's not just preaching or the motherhood statements on the wall or some of the initiatives, but actually it ingrains into the day to day lifestyle of the organization, as I call it. And that's how organizations are built around people. When people start focusing, and it's a journey which an employee travels right from their onboarding till exit, wherein it becomes a way of operating how you belong. And it's not the destination that you arrive at, but how the journey you live in is where it makes a difference.
100% true. And I'm actually very proud of the young leaders around us today. The fact that they are aware, and the fact that they have taken away the stigma which is associated to talking around uh breakdowns, whether they are physical breakdowns or mental breakdowns. And that's, I think, something that I love about working with this new generation as well, that they are extremely open. I think they know what they want from an organization or from the work that they're doing. It's not just a job for them anymore. It's so much more. It's like understanding the purpose. It's about having, like, you talked earlier about making a living and working. I think there's a
Yeah.
difference between that. And I think the younger generation is a little bit more aware that the fact is that they are actually, it's they're working because they want to live a life. It's not because it's because they need the money or they need to do things around that. So yeah, I so get it. We often have this this conversation in my current organization where we say that today, if we have to look at it, if we have to compare ourselves with the product organization, for us, people are the product. And the better is the better investment into the product, your product becomes that much richer and that much more sustainable. And that's what we do, that if we really want to reach any height, how can I make that really well? And wellness plays such a huge.
So true. And somewhere, you know, you talked about workplaces these days are diverse, right? Because within a location, there are diverse people coming in. If it's pan India, all the more diverse. And if it has got a, like in my some instance, it was a country flavors as well.
Yeah.
How's been your experience in designing wellness initiatives to cater to this diversity?
So, one of the first things I think to realize is that diversity cannot be something which looks great in your culture playbook, or it's not something which is going to sound good at the end of the year. Your diversity cannot be like the Pride months, that comes in June, and then you just support that. That's one part of it. So there is looking at diversity from different angles. One, I think that has helped me, is not just in terms of gender, not in terms of orientation, but it's also around how can we create a space for different groups of people, which means different age as well. You often see that, I'm going to take a step back and say that education is first thing, or awareness is the first thing that we need if we want to focus on diversity as an angle in wellness. Some of the things that I have believed in and I've tried to bring in is that one of the first things that you need is everybody should have a voice, no matter or what gender they belong to, what orientation, what age, what experience level. Because only when we feel that we are being heard, only when we feel that we have a voice on the table, that we'll start looking at ourselves as we matter, and which means we need to start looking at our own wellness as well. So, educating people around in a meeting, can we make sure that everybody is shared at least one idea, even if they are put on this spot and asked, like, do you have something to share? Do you have an idea? But at least it's a start. And when we do that, that is how you integrate wellness into your daily life as well, where diversity is also concerned. So we often see that in meetings, people who have got lesser experience, or if they are freshers or whatever, they're normally not given that space to even voice what they might think, even if it is something which is not making sense. Can we just hear them out? Is what we need to empower our people to bring into place. Can we tell our managers? Can we tell our lead? That doesn't take more than a minute of your time to just say, do you have something to contribute? But you're actually investing, you are actually contributing and watering that person's empowerment so much more, is what we need to try to bring in as a part of daily conversations. Gender things are talked about so much. I'll still try to bring about that. When we talk about diversity and wellness, it doesn't need to be just that a percentage of women or percentage of the other gender that you hire, but how can you sustain them? How can you give them the opportunities at work? How can you make sure that your environment is there to support them as well? Can we start looking at all these things and then bring wellness and diversity together, is I've been striving for. This is one place where I feel we have a long way to go, because we are so busy just understanding the diverse nature of the organization or the workforce that we live in. I can say safely that I have a lot more work to do over there. Now, what has been your experience with diversity, Anurag?
Well, similar, right? When you were talking, I was relating with all the experiences similar I had, right, in
Mhm.
the organizations. And diversity is I would say, yeah, the most talked about these days is the gender, but that's important that it plays a role. But we and I resonate 200% with you that wellness is never a one size fits all. Each, because it's about individuals, right? Each individual is different, be it their burnout is different from the other, and then you can't be generic, right? So it's all the more important that we respect and have you know an empathetic view of how people are coming in, right? Within the gender, I've seen that if you just focus upon women, right, the initiatives that you do for our women in a metro or in a
Mm,
tier 2 city.
yeah.
And Flipkart, we had warehouses as well where women were coming. That was different. So one women initiative around wellness will not, cannot be replicated or translated within the same organization, right? If it was just focusing on the supply chain of it, the supply chain tech women is different. The supply chain operations women is different, and one who's on the shop floor is different. And similarly, if you see from cross geography, right, women in America, women in Europe, and women in India, all will be different. And you have to sort of build that and help managers understand. Most importantly, because they need to sort of flex while we are giving them the toolkit, they have to flex around. And I recall getting into the most relevant comes in, and most people who are listening can also relate to, because during the COVID time, it increased substantially, right? And then that's where I would say it did a lot of good. And whenever such pandemics break across, they also have a rub on good effect on the organizations. And it became more highlighted. But we all recall that caregiving at home and mentally giving time, because a lot was happening. You're inside the confined boundaries, and externally you can't even sort of grieve in person when things were happening. And that's where we realized that caregiving is not only inclusive to human beings. People were living with pets, right? And often at times, a manager came and said that, "Look, you gave me a playbook," and I was very empathetic. But what's this coming in? He says that during this time, I can't take calls because I have to take my pet for a walk, right? And my pet is not well, and I can't go to a vet because I have to do online things. And what's this coming across? This is crazy. And I said, look, you're not understanding what means to him. It's only that these days people are opening up, they're talking more, and you are also talking more. So you have understanding and realizing that there is a pet which needs an attention, like a human being. And that's where I think diversity becomes very important, and how we sort of co-create wellness offerings with, I would say, employee resource groups, right, within the embed. And then those playbooks or those policies don't sound only on paper but become inclusive at the manager's end. But most important is how we empower such managers, how we coach them so that
Yes.
they sort of replicate and sort of make it happen. And again, zooming in back, how to make it sustainable. Some of the best practices, I would say, that we track the usage patterns around this, right? Around each manager, and most importantly, the employees, and who's accessing it, who are doing it. Most importantly, why they are doing it, what benefits they are doing it. But if they're not doing it, then why they're not doing it,
Yeah.
right? And bringing that analytics back, because let's face it, these business leaders, they are more data driven, more analytics driven, not as a lag but a lead metrics, that okay, what this pattern relates to, where's the, and I hear it many times, so what's the problem statement, right? Why should I be worried about it? It's okay, people have not utilized it, because then where you are heading to, and when you show that, then they get scared, all right? And then they bring more sort of human angle in terms of dealing with it, and how it needs to be customized at an individual level. But yeah, it's a it's to me, it's a topic which is very deep,
Yeah.
right? It's the most difficult one when it comes to handling the diversity flavor, right? Not only gender but different sort of diversities that come in, and how do we actually make it happen is a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to need some more working from all of us to get to a good place.
Yes, but the good thing is that it is coming into
Absolutely.
the workplaces these days, right? And when it is coming, people are more proactive. They are more adapt to understand that this is an important dimension. I believe more solutions will come across.
I think one of the best things that's happening is that we've got people who are aware of it, people who are want to dedicate themselves to making this better. And I think that's how revolutions start. And I don't think very, very far from actually trying to break the code on this one. But yeah, lovely, lovely to hear about. And I so resonate with that, right? That COVID actually was something which gave such a huge boost to the movement of wellness. That while it was being talked about in pockets, while it was restricted to only some organizations, but how it became like a global phenomenon, how it became like a common vocabulary. I think that's what we owe COVID for.
We have talked a lot about what we sort of bring in, right, to the workplaces. But what about our team, our own teams in HR, right? Would love to hear what approach you as a leader follow to, foster both employee well-being and most importantly innovation, because we need to constantly innovate.
Yeah, totally. I think I can safely say that I am because my team is there behind me. And I think I can truly be myself only because of them. But one of the main things that I have strived when I work with any team, not just where I am currently, but any team that I've worked with, is there, first of all, a kind of an alignment on how we think. It's very important as a team if we all have a common objective, a common purpose that we are heading towards. And if it's not, then it becomes my responsibility to educate them, to actually make them aware of what are the important aspects of building a people centric team. Once that is there, and I think most of the people that we work with want to make a change, they just don't either find a place to do it, or haven't had the courage to do it, or haven't had the space to do it so far. So once that awareness is taken care of, actually educating them on how this translates into business objectives, how it translates into the bottom line that the organizations look for. And then probably focusing on one of the main things, which is how do you create empathy, not just with the people that we work with, but within our team as well. Because I'm a firm believer that wellness needs to start with you. And if your team is, it becomes quite a paradox because I've seen a lot of not a lot of a few leaders talk about wellness in the organization, but when you talk about how well are their teams feeling, it's sometimes not that great because they're not given that space, they're not given the time, the team themselves are getting burnout. So if you want to be a good leader, if you want to be a leader who believes in wellness, first of all start at home, make sure that your team is being looked after. And then I think it's around we give them the space to just try out new things. As far as it does not disrupt the daily workings of an organization or the business, as far as it's not taking away a lot of time from the people, and it is going to lead to some learning, uh, if not an outcome. I think that's enough if you can just try out and understanding that wellness is a habit. It's not a sport. I think if we had these things in focus, then our teens are the ones who make us a success rather than the other way around.
I'm just totally with you. I always say that it's together we can, and together we will make a difference.
Yeah.
I'm nothing without a team, right? It's a team that makes a difference. And first is the inclusive inner team, and then the external team, wherein we have an influences, right? And what has worked best for me is that I've been sort of always a genuine listener to the team, right? Giving them an opportunity to just share, open up, right? What is stopping them, right? What is blocking them, both at a personal level and at the work level, and how I can help them unlock that, right? And I constantly try to tell them that what can I do, how can I help you, to be successful, to sort of achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come up with their business goals and other things. And I typically try to challenge them. Is this what you want to achieve? Think twice. Is this what your goal is to be? And then they realize that, they are capable. They are capable of doing much bigger, right? How they can bring in more innovation. And
True.
most importantly, how they need to be sort of strong, both emotionally, physically, mentally, and at the end make work a fun, right? And not get that negative stress. Take the positive stress that okay, I will beat myself. And keep on telling them that, your fight, your challenge is not from anyone else. I'm there to take care of that, right? If your inputs are right, you will achieve the outcome, right? It's not the impact that I'm looking at. It's how you're putting in, because there are multiple things that may not lead you to the desired result. That's okay. That's for me to sort of take care of. But how can I, correct your input? Wherein wellness becomes one of the important things to put across. And somewhere, the spirituality journey also, which I learned earlier in my career with Maharshi Group, right? And how to me it helped a lot in
Yeah.
becoming more calm, more focused, right? And not getting, super stressed or agitated, but showing that calm demeanor was the meditation, right? It helps you across. It helps you, unclutter your mind.
Yeah.
And with teams, when all work in unison, magic happens.
Very
So
true.
so very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure your team's really lucky to have you. It sounds amazing of what all you bring onto the table. I always, last few years I've been saying that we need to start probably calling us, we need to stop calling ourselves manager and instead call ourselves enablers,
Team.
because people around us don't need managing. They just need enabling and they just need empowerment. And what you talked about is actually leading towards that. So that's really, really amazing. And yeah, it brought me to the point that wellness starts with you. And I'm so glad that you actually take care of yourself with meditation and whatever you bring with you, that once you are taken care of, you'll be able to take care of the others as well.
Yeah, when you can't preach yourself, right? You need to be first calm yourself, because
Yeah.
it's natural, inherent that you get agitated, stressed out, and carry that positive stress. And for that, I would say, yeah, meditation plays a bit
Yeah.
role in that. But most importantly, one has to realize that you can't do many things yourself, right? Seek help.
You can.
And and I reach out myself to the team that, hey guys, I don't know this. Who's good in this, right?
Wow.
And I need help out there. And when
Yeah.
they see me doing that, they also reach to their own colleagues who can
Yeah.
help them out.
Yeah.
And I've seen examples of that. The teams were working in silos when I took over within my team. And within a short time, they started collaborating, working together, and taking it as a pride, as a goal for the people function, not for the individual.
Yeah.
And when you take that away, that fear away, that each individual has to alone perform, right? And you don't get points, as they call it, in the conventional school, that around the team, you're individual, you have to fight. No, it's not, right? It's a collective power of teams that bring in, and it's the most basic thing, yet we fail to sort of get it, translated into workplaces.
Very true. There's another thing that I have started in last few years now. Maybe I have COVID to thank as well, where I call it out. If I'm not feeling 100%, and if I feel that my decision making or my support is going to get impacted, I think I call it out, saying that today is a low day. You'll have to bear with me if there is anything important. Please let's keep it for the next day because I might not come up with the best decisions today. And I think that has helped me a lot and my team a lot because they when they go through similar days they call it out as well, saying that, you know what, today is not a great day for me. If I can just do what is required to be done, I'll be happier. And I think there's so much of power in just being yourself and letting people be themselves. It brings a whole new dimension into how you work together.
Absolutely, right. As a closing piece, what's that one uh, piece of advice that would give to the leaders of today on fostering a wellness driven work culture? What that advice would be?
My advice would be that embrace it as a way of being. It's not a buzzword. It's something that needs to integrate into the way of being, the way of running a business as well. My advice to young leaders would be don't give up. Even if you feel that you're surrounded by people who do not understand what you're doing, do not give up. Start small. Revolutions normally start like that. But keep at it. It's extremely fulfilling. It's extremely giving. And at the end of the day, you are the one who will step out feeling satiated and satisfied. What is the advice that you would give, Anurag?
Very powerful. Resonated so well, totally with you. Well, what I would say, and this has been sort of an essence of the little journey that I have, is to any leader, right? And I believe in leadership beyond titles, and anyone who considers themselves to be a leader is lead with authenticity, right? Be genuine and show a lot of empathy. Trust me, very basic, but that's where, I have seen the most of the inspiring leaders, these successful leaders, and who have sort of created mavericks at workplaces. One common trait with them was that they were very authentic. They were natural. They were effective listeners, and most importantly, they had a lot of empathy, right? Wherein they created a safe space for their teams, for that matter. It's okay to fail within this, right? As we call it, that all your failures are mine because I could not help you succeed.
Yeah.
When you succeed, it's not
Thanks.
my success, it's your success, right? And when such leaders model this with genuine care and balance, it sets a tone of a culture where in wellness becomes ingrained automatically, right? Because then they are natural promoters of wellness, and not just it's an ingrained into day-to-day work, but they ensure that how it rubs on into the other teams, right? It helps building trust. So lead by example, be an authentic leader, and most importantly, show a lot of empathy, and your teams would do wonders for you.
So inspiring. Very touching, very touching. And yes, I agree with you. Can we just listen? Can we just start with that at least?
Just listen, trust, and be an enabler. That
Yeah.
how can I enable you to be successful, right? I've always followed myself that, okay, how can I help you to do this?
Correct. Yes.
And how can I do your job? And that's where the people start believing in you. They start believing more than you in their own full potential, and it takes away the negative stress that I'm not worried. There is someone who will take care of me,
Yeah.
right? And let me just unleash myself and punch above my weight. Great.
It's
Thanks for your time today. It
Thank
was
you
really
so much,
lovely.
Anurag. Just as a parting thing, and I'm just curious about what is one thing, one tagline that you would leave behind?
Together we can, together we will.
How lovely.
That
What
has
about
been my
the
signature line as well in all through these years. Yeah.
I'll just borrow the inspiration from that for sure and keep learning, be the learner that we are. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, Anurag.
Likewise, and we would continue this conversations at given intervals and keep on learning from each other. Your journey has been equally inspiring. Lots to learn. Thank you for time.
Thank you for your time. Totally humbled.